Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel, and today we are on volume 3 of Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish. I am so excited and I want to also be relieved because we had a really rough volume of Urha, so I want to look forward to a more cheerful, less serious book. But I don't know, I'm also kind of a little bit scared because I tend to think, oh yes, this is gonna be like so cheerful, so like carefree, and then the next thing you know, someone's dying. Not this specifically, just like generally, it's kind of the vibe. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm getting an interesting notification. I'm not sure what to make of it, but hi. Yeah, so we're hoping that they don't disappoint in the cheerfulness, but we'll see. Also, if you're new here, hi, I'm Janae, I read anime, and we usually read for 3 hours. We take a break on more or less on the top of each hour for 10 minutes just so I can stretch, get new tea, that kind of things. And yeah, I think that's more or less it. Also, just a quick note that I tend to like struggle a little bit when I'm reading, well, generally when I'm reading, but especially when I'm switching from one writer to another, so please bear with me if this one is a little bit hiccupy. And I have a lot of back pain today because I did too much exercise this week, which it feels stupid to say, but that's the case. So if you notice me like shifting around, it's just that, so just apologies in advance, but hi. Okay, I think that is more or less it. I think we can get started. So just the arts for this is always so stunning. I don't know why, I don't know what they do over at Seven Seas, but I greatly appreciate it because it just is so beautiful. And then we have the full version of it here. I don't want to drop the book by accident. I'm gonna need a pillow. These are the covers for the Thai editions. Oh, so same cover. I have to say, like, I wish there was a way where you could have all the different covers with all the different languages, because sometimes I just look at the other covers and I'm like, damn, that's so beautiful as well. Anyway, okay. So, for anyone who is following along, we are right at the start, chapter 77. Fish wants to do it. Okay. Let's see if this title delivers. Leo's days passed chaotically as he did his best to protect his secret fish identity. He'd never spent such a long time traveling before, so whenever they passed by a village, Prince Jing always stopped a few days at the local inn and took Leo out to shop and eat a couple of hot meals. After Leo was rested, they would continue their journey. Because they were on the road, they carried a lot of travel rations with them. At first, Wang Gong was able to prepare a lot of side dishes and meat-filled pancakes, but they were gone within a few days. Leo quickly grew tired of the rations, but luckily for him, he could transform back to a fish. He had no problem eating fish food every day. Sometimes Prince Jing would take him out to eat meat too, and he'd order Wang Shi to purchase snacks for Li in the villages they passed. Leo was being taken care of so well, he felt like traveling was barely a hardship. Once they were truly in the middle of nowhere, they camped out a few times. Leo gave up his comfortable carriage to sleep in the thick furs together with Prince Jing. The moment Leo got over his own mental block, he became absolutely shameless and even started begging for intimacy. Oh, okay. Insisting that being out in the wild had its own sort of charm. Unable to convince him otherwise, Prince Jing always ended up giving in. The two of them would hold each other, listening to the howling winds outside the tent as they felt each other's racing heartbeats. If only Li Gongzi didn't have to end each encounter with rushing back to the carriage, half-dressed and panicking. Several parts of their journey took them through the isolated wilderness. In his boredom, Liu discovered a new skill. When he tried hunting for wild vegetables on the mountainside, he found his success rate was 100%. He'd even tried digging up sweet potatoes, a task he completed with equal perfection. Wang Shi returned empty-handed, but Liu's arms were piled so full he could barely hold all the vegetables. That's an interesting skill to acquire. Wang Shi couldn't be more envious. When they passed by a river, Liu proved to be just as lucky at fishing. He just stood by the shore, where the water wasn't too rapid, and gently parted the rocks there, and shrimps, crabs, and loaches would come teeming out, occasionally joined by other fish. Leah, you're a fish. I don't know if you should be eating fish anymore. I feel like that should be the one thing you will avoid, but maybe that's just me. Leah didn't eat. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I should have just kept reading. Leah didn't eat fish anymore, so he'd return all the fish to the water, but the shellfish could all be eaten with just a little boiling, retaining their natural flavor. Oh goodness, his empathy doesn't stretch very wide for these sea creatures. Well, fresher water in this case, but still. Wang Shi was pleased and excited, but still insisted on boiling it for him, refusing to allow Liu to get involved. Liu was confused. He'd cooked back at the manor, and Wang Shi never stopped him then, so why was he stopping him now? Quick-witted Wang Gonggong suddenly had nothing to say. It was actually because he was afraid Li Gongzi's cooking skills would ruin all the food. But His Highness had ordered them not to comment on Gongzi's cooking skills, so no matter how many times Liu asked, Wang Shi's mouth was shut tight, and he never let anything slip. He continues to be the best wingman. But it wasn't a big deal. Liu quickly pushed those thoughts to the back of his mind. To him, being able to find ingredients to cook with was more useful than being able to cook. He'd finally noticed that his luck was unbelievable when it came to finding food. This was when Liu finally understood what the well-fed and well-clothed stat that he'd been given a buff on wasn't about his cooking skills, it was about his ability to find food. Perhaps in the future it would affect the clothing too? Thinking back on it now, other than the time he'd purposefully starved himself, he'd really never gone hungry. Liu was torn between complaining that the fish scanning system picked such weird places to give him good luck, and celebrating that he'd never starve as a koi. As if Prince Jing would ever allow that, though. 2 months later, they finally arrived at a small village on the western border, Luofeng Village. This was the temporary home the emperor had handpicked for Prince Jing. The village head had received the secret order a while ago and had a dwelling already prepared for Prince Jing. It was apparently the best manor in the village and had been cleaned from top to bottom. However, when Prince Jing took Liu to see it, although the village head had referred to it as a manor, it was just a 2-courtyard home compared to what they were used to. This was practically cramped. Let's just read that note about the 2-courtyard home, because that sounds pretty big to me, but sure. Standard dwellings at the time usually had 3 courtyards, while princes' manors might consist of several standard homes linked together with additional gardens and ponds. Okay, so it's even technically below a standard home, but still. Prince Jing had brought along plenty of guards as well as a few servants, but they wouldn't all fit into the 2-courtyard dwelling. Thinking quickly, Wang Shi bought the properties on either side. Now there was enough space for everyone. Though the residence had been cleaned, it was a little outdated. Wang Shi wanted to renovate it slightly and expand the main courtyard, but Prince Jing shook his head. They were here on the Emperor's orders. It would be best not to act outside those orders. As soon as Liu arrived at his new house, he took a look around, strolling along until he spotted his tank in Prince Jing's room. This room was a lot smaller than the one in the prince's manor, and all the furnishings were quite ordinary. There was barely even enough space to turn around. Liu had the feeling it would be a hassle to transform here. He was just about to protest when Prince Jing asked Wang Shi to prepare the room next door for Li Gongzi. I love how considerate Prince Jing is of Liu at all times. Is Li Gongzi not staying with your highness? To Wang Shi, this was unbelievable. During the whole trip, his master had never ridden in the carriage, riding on horseback so Li Gongzi could have the carriage to himself. Wasn't that enough? Now he was living apart from Li Gongzi? Was he that into the idea of Li Gongzi being pregnant? I had clean forgotten about that. Oh, this frickin' novel, my word. Jing leveled Wang Shi with a look. It was too small here. Li Gongzi wouldn't be able to sleep well. Originally, the room next door had been reserved for Prince Jing's study. Since Prince Jing was adamant, though, Wang Shi could hardly protest, so he quickly had to clean it up for Li Yu. Liu was very embarrassed, but he felt he couldn't say anything either. It was his fault for keeping such an unspeakable secret. Because their new home was so small, Prince Jing laid down some new rules. There was no need for the servants who came with him to wait on him at night. The guards were still obligated to continue with their jobs as normal, but everyone else was only tasked with taking care of themselves. Li Gongzi, I'm leaving His Highness to you. Wang Shi kept going over reminders with Li Yu. Prince Jing was sending Wang Gongong away too, so he had to ask Li Yu to handle it in his stead. Oh no, Prince Jing and Wang Gongong are being separated. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, on the one hand, I get it. On the other hand, I'm worried. Okay. Liu agreed, blushing, but his heart was beating wildly. After Wang Shi and the others left, Liu poured some hot water into a clean copper basin, a little clumsily. After he thought it over, he added a bit of cold water to make it a mild temperature and brought it over to Prince Jing. Your Highness, why don't you wash your hands and face first? Liu didn't really know how to take care of other people, so he just followed his own habits. He'd already combed out his hair and taken out his hairpiece. His hair was now longer than ever, and he'd gathered it into a casual ponytail at the back of his head to stop it from falling in his eyes. Prince Jing loved seeing him in such a relaxed, domestic state. Grabbing Liu's hands, he put them into the warm water and rubbed his palms gently. Liu couldn't be any more familiar with the water. He scooped some up and poured it over the back of Prince Jing's hand. The prince smiled, and the two of them played with the water for a while. Liu cursed inwardly as he realized he had lost track of time. He furtively glanced at the hourglass he'd brought from the manor, which kept track of the time he could spend as a human. Making a quick estimation, Liu figured he had more than enough time to take a bath. Your Highness, do you want to take a bath? I can help you wash your back, Liu blurted out. As soon as the words left his mouth, he felt like an idiot. Prince Jing had just cleaned his hands and face, and now he was talking about a bath. He was a fish, so he spent most of his time in the water, and he never got too dirty. But while they'd been on the road for 2 months, Prince Jing had only been able to take a bath when the inns they stayed at allowed for it. Liu was just worried Prince Jing was uncomfortable. Prince Jing understood his intentions and nodded, smiling. He didn't want to overwork Liu, though, so he walked to the bathtub himself. Wang Shi had prepared plenty of hot water. After seeing how awkwardly Leah poured the water into the copper basin, there was no way Prince Jing was going to let him pick up the water jug again. Prince Jing tested the water temperature and poured the water himself. Your Highness, I can help wash your back. Leah's eyes were bright as he draped a towel over his arm. Prince Jing took a secret glance at the hourglass. They seemed to still have enough time, so Prince Jing suddenly pulled Leah into the tub. I love that they're on the same wavelength. It just sucks that they're unknowingly, well, at least on one side, unknowingly on the same wavelength. Your Highness, what are you doing? Leah exclaimed in shock as he toppled headfirst into the water. Prince Jing smiled and pressed Leah into the side of the tub. His Highness didn't just want to want a back scrub. He wanted a full fish meal. Oh goodness. Leah was completely red after the bath, and there was still a bit of something lurking in his eyes. Sitting on the chair, he kicked his feet aimlessly while Prince Jing helped him change into a snowy white silk top and to dry his hair. I mean, is there even a point? Considering he's just gonna transform into a fish in like a few seconds. Leah suddenly realized who was taking care of whom. Whatever, the fish wasn't fussed with the details. He shook off the towel and smiled, stepping onto Prince Jing's feet, one foot after the other. He wasn't wearing socks or shoes, and his feet were still a little wet. Prince Jing went very still. Leah knew he was fanning the flames. They had been dating for nearly half a year, and their feelings were steadily growing deeper. He had followed Prince Jing from the manor all the way to this dilapidated dwelling, but everything still felt sweet. Did this mean they could push things a little bit further? Oh goodness. He'd only laid down those rules in the beginning because he was afraid he'd turn into a fish in the middle. After all, not because he didn't want to. Actually, the transformation problem wasn't impossible to overcome. He had an accurate way to measure time now. He could totally split the bed activities into two halves. For example, he could transform on the night of the first day, when it was close to midnight and his time was almost up, and he could find an excuse to go to the other room, such as going to the bathroom, and turn back into a fish. He just had to wait a moment until the next day and then transform again. See, like, when there is a drive, there are solutions. He just was not motivated enough before. Oh goodness. In simpler terms, he just had to minimize the time between transformations, and night was the best time for such activities. Hard work always paid off. The fish had finally managed to come up with an ingenious plan, and he definitely wanted to try it. Over the last few months, Prince Jing had practically become a monk. Leah had tried to seduce him over and over, but Prince Jing followed the rules to a T. Refusing to even enter the room, Leah suspected that if this continued, he might become a monk as well. Seriously, why did he lay down those rules in the beginning? Now he was facing the consequences. Sob, sob, sob. He really wanted to do it. Oh my goodness. I was wondering if the title, like the chapter's title, was gonna be a misdirect, but no, apparently not. With Leah's legs shifting restlessly, Prince Jing was also uncomfortable. He took a step, wanting to find out the fish's intentions. Leah's feet were on Prince Jing's, and he was zoned out. Losing his balance, he was about to fall over when Prince Jing quickly caught him. Leah seized the opportunity. He fell onto Prince Jing and rubbed his eyes, pretending he could no longer keep them open. Prince Jing picked up the fidgeting fish and set him down lightly on the bed. Leah quickly clung onto him, not letting him go. Although they had taken a bath together, he knew Prince Jing was holding himself back and was currently in a bit of a state. Despite all the time they'd spent abiding by the rules, Leah still knew how to get his boyfriend worked up. Prince Jing was clearly affected. In unison, the two of them glanced at the hourglass out of the corners of their eyes. I kind of live for this. Now that they were cuddling together, Leah thought he was about to succeed. Prince Jing let go of him as usual, but Leah didn't say goodbye. Instead, he hinted in a small voice, "Your Highness, wait for me." Prince Jing froze. Leah fluttered his lashes at him playfully and gave him a sultry glance, about to rush to the other room to prepare. At that moment, the unexpected happened. There was a yell from outside. "Your Highness, watch out!" Leah and Prince Jing heard the sounds of knives and swords outside. They glanced at each other. Who could have guessed assassins would appear in the tiny town thousands of miles away from the capital? Leah was not at all prepared. It was almost time for him to transform. For a moment, he was frozen in place, at a loss for what to do. Prince Jing, on the other hand, reacted much more quickly. He rushed forward, grabbing Leah, who was nearly out the door, and shoved him behind a wardrobe. He nodded at Leah. "Hide here, don't move." Prince Jing waited until the noises grew louder, then rushed out with his sword drawn. The western border was rife with conflict, but this had been an empty dwelling. As soon as they arrived, so did the assassins. What a coincidence! Naturally, Prince Jing assumed that they were here for him, but he still had to confront them. There were only so many rooms in this residence. If he didn't face them now, the assassins might make their way inside, and Xiao Ye would be in danger. If he went out to challenge them, at least Xiao Ye would be safe. He closed the door behind him and took a moment to calm himself. The guards were engaged in a brawl with a group of masked people in dark clothes. It was unclear who had the upper hand. One of the assassins broke away to head for him, but Prince Jing kicked them away and entered the fray. As expected, the assassins were in the midst of searching through the rooms, but as soon as Prince Jing showed up, they stopped their search, with more than half the assassins concentrating their attacks on Prince Jing. "Great!" And sorry, I read that a bit awkwardly, so it sounded like it wasn't the end of the sentence, but it was. Inside, Leah paced around worriedly, listening to the sounds of shouting and fighting from outside. He couldn't bear to hide by himself, so he cracked the window open a bit to see Prince Jing battling alongside the guards. He suddenly felt much better. He scanned the scene just in case, and happened to spot someone drawing a bow in the distance. Great, I need another pillow. I feel like I need to get even more pillows, or maybe just acquire more stuffed toys at this point. His heart raced. He didn't know if Prince Jing would be able to avoid it. Beside himself with worry, he glanced around inside the room. His eyes brightened as they landed on the copper basin. But when he quickly glanced at the hourglass, he gritted his teeth. He still had a little bit of time. As long as he was decisive and moved quickly, it would work. Leah grabbed the copper basin, hiding behind it like a shield, then pushed open the door and ran out wildly. "Your Highness, watch out for the archer!" No sooner had the words left his mouth than the arrow sped towards Prince Jing. Leah screamed in alarm, but Prince Jing calmly tilted his head to the side and avoided it. Leah rushed forward and shielded Prince Jing with the copper basin. His spear only lasted a short second. The hand holding the copper basin was shaking, but very quickly steadied. He was a man too. He knew Prince Jing had rushed out in order to protect him, but he wasn't afraid of death. He wanted to protect Prince Jing. Meanwhile, Wang Shi arrived with even more guards, and others rushed over from nearby. The dark-clothed intruders were gradually surrounded. Seeing that the situation was not in their favor, they started to retreat. Prince Jing grabbed a bow from Wang Shi, and without taking the time to aim, shot down the archers from before. Yeah, I mean, we know that Xiao Yu does not like violence, but in this case maybe he'll be able to come to terms with it. I don't know. Very quickly, the archer was surrounded by the guards. With the danger over, Leah clung tightly to Prince Jing. He used to be afraid of blood, but now that Prince Jing was covered in it, he didn't seem to care anymore. Not only did he not care, he straight up burst into laughter. Just now, a thought had flashed through his mind. What if Prince Jing had been shot by the arrow? He was afraid of the assassins, sure, but he was much more afraid of losing Prince Jing. He wanted them to live a peaceful life together. As Liu Ye made this realization, there was an announcement from the system. Through thick and thin was now completed. Liu smiled smugly. He was just about to praise himself when his smile suddenly froze. Crap, his time was up. Liu had no time to say anything to Prince Jing. He ran back to the room. The moment he pushed open the door, Liu heard the chilling sound of a bow being pulled back. Gongzi, be careful! Wangshi yelled in panic, but he was too far away to help. His eyes widened. He didn't even have time to look back. Seeing that the arrow was about to reach Liu, Prince Jing threw himself at him, toppling both of them into the room. They fell to the ground, narrowly avoiding the arrow. He was held protectively in Prince Jing's arms, but the corners of his eyes were a little damp. Your Highness, he had choked up, but before he could voice his gratitude, he turned into a lively, jumping fish before Prince Jing's very eyes. Oh my word! Okay, I'm excited. I need to drink some tea, but I was not expecting the reveal to happen in the first chapter of Volume 3. My word. Okay. Also, I didn't really ask. I'm hoping the audio is okay and everything like that. I knew I'd forgotten something. I could not think what it was. But I assume you guys would have told me if the audio was terrible. Okay. On to the next chapter we go. Thank you. Okay, we have art. So let's just view the art before we get into the chapter, because it's kind of glorious. It's so funny. Poor Xiaoye looks so distressed. Okay, chapter 78. Bossy Fish Spirit. Oh my goodness, okay. Liu's mind went blank. He had just transformed right in front of Prince Jing. How was he going to cover this up now? Slap Prince Jing into unconsciousness, then tell him it was a dream? How absurd. Fish or human, his strength was no match for Prince Jing's. His cover hadn't just fallen off, it had shattered ooh, sorry. I hope that didn't destroy the mic too badly. It had shattered to pieces. He couldn't just put it back on. Struggling wildly inside his clothes, Liu almost forgot to jump back into the tank. What would happen now that Prince Jing knew Li Gongzi was a fish? He'd think Li Gongzi was a carp spirit, right? Liu had heard that in ancient times people burned Yao. He didn't want to become a grilled fish. Preoccupied with his internal screaming, Liu completely forgot there was a third person here. The assassin who'd shot at him had escaped into the room because he was injured, and he just witnessed a human transforming into a fish. Crap, this was not part of the plan. None of this was part of the plan, but that's particularly bad. He was so shocked he couldn't even speak. Prince Jing quickly got up, kicking the door closed. He had to keep Wangxi and the others outside before they could rush over. Then he approached the assassin menacingly and knocked him out. With the assassin taken care of, Prince Jing glanced back at the corpsman. I didn't advocate violence, but maybe kill him? Because you can't guarantee that he won't spill the beans. Xiaoye was still struggling. Xiaoye was still struggling, lost, as though his mind had gone completely blank. Prince Jing sighed inwardly. He'd done his best. Now that the situation had come to this, he didn't know how to deal with it either. His most pressing concern was that the fish lacked water, so he immediately put him into the tank. He'd find out what the carp spirit's intentions were before making any more moves. Leah's brain was complete mush at this point. Watching Prince Jing rush here and there, he didn't know what to do with himself. It wasn't until Prince Jing stopped in front of him that the fish snapped out of it. Was Prince Jing going to capture him? He was too afraid to move. It wasn't a big room. Now that he had been spotted, there was nowhere he could hide. Besides, he couldn't go without water for long. Even if he managed to escape, the only place he could run to was the fish tank. What was he supposed to do? He was about to become a dead fish. Leo's body went stiff, allowing Prince Jing to pick him up. Leo resisted the urge to take a swipe of his tail. Even now, he couldn't bear to slap his boyfriend in the face. What a strange sentence. Sob. No, his boyfriend was definitely about to dump him. Now that Prince Jing knew he was a fish, it was hard to say whether he'd even want to keep him anymore. Yesterday, he was a beloved pet fish. Today, he might just saute him. My goodness. The more Leo thought about it, the less confidence he had. Prince Jing held him in his hands, but Leo didn't wrap his tail around his finger like normal. Instead, his tail was straight and stiff. He'd have to lay flat later anyway, when it was time to get skewered for barbecue. I forgot how dramatic Xiaoyu is. Like, fair enough that he's terrified, but he has definitely had a dramatic streak in the past as well. Leo's thoughts dissolved into shock as Prince Jing put him in a crystal bottle. Wait, didn't Prince Jing want to kill him? After Prince Jing dropped him into the water, Leo observed quietly. Prince Jing was just looking at him intently. It didn't seem like he wanted to arrest him. Leo swam a careful lap, and Prince Jing didn't have any other reaction. Your Highness, how are you and Li Gongzi doing? Are you hurt? Wangxi yelled loudly from outside. There was still an assassin inside, and Li Gongzi might even be injured, but his master had closed the door. Why? At the moment, Leo was very sensitive to sound. Wangxi banging on the door gave him quite a fright, and he sank to the bottom of the bottle. Was it too late to pretend to be dead? Prince Jing glanced helplessly at the fish's attempt to play dead. He couldn't speak, so it was hard to communicate. He thought about it for a moment, then reached into the water with a finger and patted Xiaoyu's head comfortingly, confusing the fish even more. If Wangxi didn't get an answer soon, he was going to knock down the door. Prince Jing grabbed the unconscious assassin, walked out, and then immediately closed the door behind him, not letting anyone see inside. As soon as he left the room, Prince Jing's handsome face darkened. He took care of the assassin with a single stab of his sword and threw him onto the floor. I mean, again, I know, like, he doesn't really have a choice in it. I guess we can just be glad that he spared Xiaoyu the sight of him killing the assassin. Thanks to Xiaoyu's fear of seeing him kill someone, this assassin, who dared to harm his beloved, had been allowed to live a few moments longer. But Xiaoyu's identity had to remain a secret. Wangxi quickly ordered someone to move the corpse. Your Highness, what about Li Gongzi? Prince Jing glanced back at the room. Wangxi immediately understood. As long as he's all right. Your Highness, do we need to summon a physician? The attack had been so chaotic, Wangxi was afraid his master or Li Gongzi was hurt. Prince Jing wanted to refuse, thinking about how scared Xiaoyu was. But after a moment's consideration, he gestured with his hands. Wangxi nodded. The old servant understood. We'll leave legals to rest for a few days. I'll call for a physician another time. Leah was listening from just the other side of the wall. Every time Wangxi mentioned him, he trembled with anxiety. He couldn't see what was happening, and he didn't know how Prince Jing would explain things to Wangxi, so he could only guess from Wangxi's responses. He listened for a while, but it didn't seem like Wangxi knew he was a fish. Did Prince Jing not tell him? He'd seen him transform, so why didn't he tell Wangxi? Even if it was unbelievable that a human could turn into a fish, Wangxi of all people would believe Prince Jing, so why didn't he? Lia's scrambled brain finally started to catch up with what had just happened. Prince Jing's expression when he left, as well as the gentle way he touched his head. It really didn't seem like he was angry. Leah couldn't help the pitiful hope blooming at the bottom of his heart. Was it really possible that even though he'd discovered his secret, Prince Jing wasn't angry and was instead helping him to cover it up? How else could he explain the prince refusing to let Wangxi into the room and carefully putting him in the crystal bottle? Didn't His Highness think he was a monster? This is actually so cute. Oh goodness. While Liu floated in his tank, feeling uneasy, Prince Jing took care of all the things that needed his attention right away. First, he had to make sure no one else had noticed anything when Liu transformed back into a fish. Luckily, he had thrown himself on top of Liu, and other than the assassin who'd already been taken care of, no one else had been close enough to see anything. There was no high-ranking officials in Luofeng village. Now that Prince Jing was here, he was naturally the highest authority. There was no need to take the assassin anywhere else. They were handed over to the guards for questioning. The reinforcements Wangxi had brought consisted of 2 squads of imperial guards. The captain came over to bow to Prince Jing in greeting and said he was under the emperor's orders to protect him. Rubbing his brow, Prince Jing ordered Wangxi to first thank them on his behalf and then to begin a draft of the message he was going to send to the emperor. Now that Prince Jing had decided to fight for the throne, he had to let the emperor know when anything serious took place. Prince Jing picked the most important things to relay. After taking care of all these tasks at top speed, he went to look for Xiao Yu. Sorry, I don't know why I'm struggling so much. Before entering the room, he once again signaled to the servants that they should not enter. Then he stepped quietly over the threshold and went to look for the fish in the tank. The difference was obvious as soon as he entered the room. Xiao Yu no longer seemed dejected and swam to him willingly, his tail wagging eagerly. Wagging like a dog, oh my goodness. The carp spirit had thought it through. The corner of Prince Jing's lips quirked up as he affectionately patted the fish's head. But Leah responded by diving behind an underwater plant and peeking out at him. Prince Jing knew Xiao Yu was testing him because he was afraid, so he didn't make a big deal out of it. He took out the note he had just prepared and spread it open where the fish could see. Leah saw the writing on the paper clearly. Don't be afraid. You know, the irony that Prince Jing, who is technically mute, I think is one of the best communicators that I have ever read in a danmei. And I live for every single second of it. It's just, yes. Prince Jing had written many notes to the fish. He'd gotten hurt for him, and just now he'd saved him. Leah suddenly felt a little teary-eyed. Sorry, Your Highness, perhaps I should have told you. The fish and human faced each other. Earlier in his quest to get intimate, Leah had delayed his transformation until the night. Now that it was past midnight, Leah knew he could transform back into a human. In the end, the plan he'd put so much thought into was going to be used to come clean. Before, afraid that Prince Jing would hate him, Leah would never have dared to transform rashly. Now he let it all go. That note had given him endless courage. Without hiding anything, Leo poked his transformation skill, and, right before Prince Jing's eyes, he turned into a human again. Wrapping himself messily in his clothes, he said, "Your Highness, I have something to tell you. About me. About why I can turn into a fish. How was he supposed to explain? Belatedly, Leo realized he didn't know how to start. Was he supposed to tell Prince Jing that he was originally human and for some reason had transmigrated into a fish with a system, and Prince Jing was a character in a novel he'd read? Out of all the things, I feel like that is the thing that Prince Jing might find hard to believe. Even if Prince Jing could accept his transformation, there was no way he could accept that he was a character in a book. After all, it would change his entire worldview. What if he told the truth, but Prince Jing thought he was talking nonsense? It was best not to mention the system or his transmigration. But if he didn't, how was he going to explain this? Leo had never expected his identity to be exposed so suddenly, and he definitely hadn't expected that explaining afterwards would be so hard. He had to come up with a reason that would be acceptable to Prince Jing. Aha! As he desperately searched for an explanation, a light bulb went off in Leo's head. Prince Jing had personally witnessed him turn into a fish, so he definitely must have assumed he was a Yao. But Prince Jing had chosen to protect him regardless. That meant that there was still room in Prince Jing's heart for Li Guangzhe, even if he was a Yao. Prince Jing had read all those novels about cultivation and Yao recently. That was probably why he could accept that Li Ye was a Yao so fast. That and the fact that he wanted to protect Li Ye. Prince Jing wasn't a man who lost his cool easily. If he was the sort to be panicked and at a loss the way Li Ye had been when his identity was exposed, Wang Shi and the others would have found out on the spot. As Li Ye came to this realization, he wanted to weep. How could this man be so good? He always knew how good Prince Jing was to him, but somehow, every time, he found a way to treat him even better. I live for the fact that Li Ye is so appreciative of Prince Jing as well. Like, it's nice to have the mutual appreciation of each other. Once Prince Jing could accept that he was a corpse spirit, he might as well stop trying to look for excuses. He'd just pretend to be a corpse spirit. What was the difference between a fish with a system and a cultivating fish? They could both go back and forth between human and fish. It was basically the same thing, right? If he was a corpse spirit, then couldn't the system be categorized as the immortal guiding him and the tasks as a kind of cultivation? It all matched up. Then why did he transmigrate? It was to endure tribulation? He could only transform for 2 hours a day because he hadn't cultivated enough. Leo suddenly felt much better. He almost started waving his arms around in excitement, but Prince Jing patted his arm, encouraging him to calm down. Leo thought everything through in his head hastily before finally stammering, "Your Highness, I want to tell you, I'm actually a carp spirit." Prince Jing nodded cooperatively. He'd known for a long time. Leo spun a fantastical tale. Once he was done, he looked at Prince Jing worriedly, afraid that Prince Jing would spot his lies, or that he would suddenly go back on his decision and decide it was off-putting that he was a fish. Fortunately, Prince Jing didn't show a hint of disgust. He even spread his arms in response after Leo's tale. This meant he was willing to accept him, to support him, and to continue being his boyfriend. Leo's nose prickled with emotion. Not even he believed his own shoddy explanation, but this person chose to believe him. He choked on a sob. Your Highness, I would never harm you. Let's continue just like before, okay? Prince Jing nodded. The situation had never changed. I love this. Leah approached him slowly, leaning carefully and gradually into him. Occasionally, he'd glance up at Prince Jing's expression, but he could see that he really didn't mind. Leah was eventually completely relieved. He couldn't believe he'd managed to safely make it through exposing his identity. He let out a few muffled shouts, unwilling to let go of Prince Jing's arm. When he remembered to check, the hourglass was once again almost empty. He couldn't continue with his original plan to finish consummating their relationship, but Leah still didn't want to leave. He had a boyfriend who didn't care that he was a Yao. Oh my goodness. Your Highness, I'm a little sleepy. Let me sleep for a while. The bossy carp spirit found a warm, comfortable position in Prince Jing's arms and fell asleep, at peace. Prince Jing kissed his forehead, wrapped him up in the blankets, and lay down with him. He waited until the hourglass was empty and the person sleeping in his arms turned back into a fish, and then got up and put his fish back into the tank. He hadn't been able to bring the crystal fish tank, but the bed of silver rocks and the golden embroidered blanket were there. Prince Jing put the fish on the rocks and wrapped him up in the blanket. The fish remained comfortably in dreamland. In his sleep, he reached out with his tail and wrapped it lovingly around Prince Jing's finger. That is so funny, but it's so cute. I'm kind of trying to decide whether I should maybe make the break a little bit early, because we're like 12 minutes to the hour and we're at the end of a chapter. What do you guys think? I'm a little bit torn. Let me just... Okay, just let me see what is going on here. Okay, I'm hoping we won't have connectivity issues the way we've had recently. So fingers crossed. But then I will see you guys in... Let's make it 11 minutes time, so I'll be back on the hour. Okay, we are back. I hope the audio is still okay. Oh goodness, people arrived while I was gone. Almost forgot about today's live stream. I'll be watching the rest now and the beginning later. You missed something big. I don't know if I'm assuming you've already read it. But yeah. Hi guys. Okay, we're back. I just checked. It's gonna take us a while to get through this volume. I kind of hate the fact that we're getting through the novels more slowly, but at the same time, I know it's better for my mental health to not have 2 live streams a week on top of everything. So we just gonna have to deal. But we should be able to get through this by the end of July, which feels very far away. But anyway. Okay, so for those who just joined us, we finished off with not the realization or the reveal, the open reveal that Xiaoyu is a fish, but kind of more the fact of, okay, we've established that we're both okay with me being a fish, and now we can be happy about it. That's where we're at. Okay, so chapter 79. Fishy probing the secret. That sounds suspicious. Let's just grab a pillow in case. Leah slept for an entire day. This was the most peaceful sleep he'd gotten since he transmigrated. When he woke up, he thought he was still dreaming. Luckily, the notes and food that Prince Jing had placed next to his tank reminded him that he already knew and accepted his identity. He'd even gotten him plenty of local snacks. Leah happily turned into a human to eat them. Okay, a whole day, so a day's passed, he can transform again. When he wasn't worrying about anything, he had a big appetite. Prince Jing was in the next room working. When he heard the fish moving around next door, his lips twitched, and he ordered Wang Shi to summon the physician. He had brought along a few skilled physicians from the capital all the way to the western border, just in case. After Liu was done eating, he was asked to come out so the physician could check his pulse. He was confused. He ate and slept well, so why did he need to see a physician? But Prince Jing's presence reassured him, and he walked over obediently. He sat down right next to Prince Jing and extended an arm towards the physician. The physicians kept their surprise to themselves. They were all curious what kind of background this Li Gongzi had, and were worried they'd say something to offend him. But looking at the two of them together, they were sure they couldn't go wrong with treating him like Prince Jing's family. And they clocked that real quick. I've read it. I have to. I'm in the middle of volume 4. Okay, cool. Checking him over, the physicians declared that Li Gongzi was fine. Prince Jing had even ordered Wang Shi to ask if Li Ye had suffered any shock. Li had indeed been scared in the beginning, but after his biggest worry was resolved, he had slept extremely peacefully, without a single bad dream. But seeing how concerned his boyfriend was for him made Li smile. He was just about to tell Prince Jing not to worry when the prince reached for his hand under his sleeve and rubbed it slightly. Li recognized this as a signal from Prince Jing. Li Gongzi, after sleeping well and eating heartily, paused for a second and lied. I can't really fall asleep, and I have a hard time eating. The physicians discussed this among themselves for a while, deciding Li Gongzi might have really suffered a fright. After all, shock wasn't an illness one could easily see. The physicians all asked Li Gongzi to rest easy for a while. Prince Jing gave Wang Shi a look, and Wang Shi immediately understood. Since Li Gongzi was suffering from shock, They should probably tell the Imperial Guards as well as mention it in the note they were sending back to the palace. And of course, there was no need to mention Li Gongzi directly. Li Gongzi was deeply precious to His Highness. If Li Gongzi suffered a shock, didn't that mean His Highness had also suffered a shock? Wang Shi is bending over backwards for His Highness, and I hope His Highness realizes it. I think he does, though. But I don't think we can go wrong with showing a lot of gratitude to Wang Shi. Courtesy of Wang Shi's secret signals, the news successfully reached the capital. Prince Jing had encountered a huge group of assassins as soon as he arrived in Luofeng village, suffering a huge shock, and was now unable to get up from bed. When he received the news, the emperor was beside himself with worry. He sent a number of reinforcements to the western border and ordered the Imperial Guards stationed there to thoroughly investigate the backgrounds of the assassins. He wanted to test Prince Jing, not kill him. Prince Jing was his only son, and as soon as he'd arrived at the border, he was attacked. It was hard not to be suspicious. The emperor also ordered the guards to investigate any recent letters going from the capital to the western border. He suspected that this incident had something to do with the fight for the throne. It was so quiet in Tianjin Palace that one could hear a pin drop. The emperor's gaze landed on a list of the prince's names. The second prince was in no mental state to assassinate anyone. Who could have done this to Prince Jing? Are they really gonna take care of the sixth prince without even really trying? That would be hilarious. This is the only novel series in which I would accept that happening because of how ridiculous this is. Because it's the same level of like quirky, the conflict is not the main conflict vibe that something like Good Omens has, for example. Your Highness, you must be careful of the sixth prince. Using the excuse of his newly revealed carp spirit identity, Leah once again started lecturing. He couldn't not. They had already been attacked by assassins. Prince Jing never went to the western border in the original story, so Leah had no way of knowing who had sent the assassins, but as the final boss, the sixth prince was the most suspicious. Leah was afraid Prince Jing underestimated him. Prince Jing could finally ask, why? They were all princes, but Xiaoyu rarely mentioned the second or third princes. The idea of the sixth prince presenting a major obstacle seemed rather far-fetched. Leah had already thought of an excuse. His identity as a carp spirit was indeed useful. He cleverly spun his transmigrator's golden finger into the ability to foresee things due to his cultivation. I'm able to see into the future a little bit, so I know the sixth prince will become Your Highness's greatest enemy. Your Highness has suffered at his hand many times already. Prince Jing thought to himself, perhaps not just in the future. When the sixth prince had tried to one-up him at the emperor's birthday, he'd realized the sixth prince was quite ambitious. Now that he wasn't in the capital anymore, the sixth prince should gain the emperor's attention and favor, at least on the surface. His future life seemed set, but if anything happened at the western border, the sixth prince would be the first on the list of the emperor's suspects. Besides, Prince Jing wasn't inclined to let the sixth prince get too comfortable. The sixth prince had tried to hurt him through Xiaoyu multiple times. Prince Jing would never let this go. He hadn't even gone back at him for the emperor's birthday yet. Seeing Prince Jing getting serious, Leah smiled. But don't worry, Your Highness, he said. There's no way he'll win against you. I'm just bringing it up because I don't want you to suffer through any unnecessary hardship. Prince Jing nodded. So the sixth prince was nothing but a paper tiger. Prince Jing asked, what sort of technique is your foresight? Is it the same as the time with Ye Qingyan? It was a prediction last time with Ye Shize as well, said Li. This technique, it's called the golden finger. I feel like he should mention that it can't always be relied upon, because the more he interferes, obviously, the more things aren't bound to go the way that he knew they should have gone. But we'll see. Prince Jing thought for a moment. Did your golden finger predict you and me? What a question. Leo shook his head hurriedly. No, the golden finger isn't always accurate. It's just a possibility. Yeah, okay, great. The plot had long since gone awry. In a roundabout way, Leo told Prince Jing everything the Six Princes had done in the book. But he didn't mention Prince Jing ascending to the throne, because that might affect Prince Jing's evaluation of the situation. I appreciate that. Though the ending wouldn't change, what if it made the process too tragic? The best course of action was what they were doing already, taking things slowly and cautiously. Prince Jing then asked, "Can I learn this technique?" Leo was exasperated. Why didn't Prince Jing care more about the Sixth Prince? Why was he only asking about cultivation? Hello, wake up. You are the male protagonist of a palace drama, you know. Why couldn't they move past Prince Jing's interest in cultivation? Leo suppressed his urge to shout and did his best to persuade him. Your Highness is of the royal family. Cultivation is not for you. Please reconsider and stop thinking about this. Prince Jing looked down, expression growing sad. After your tribulation is over, how long will you stay? I mean, that's a fair question that we're all kind of wondering, so... Leo squeaked, and then remembered that the tribulation was his excuse for showing up in Prince Jing's life in the first place. The prince was asking Leo how long he would stay in the ancient world. The fish scamming system had never mentioned this before, and Leo hadn't thought about it either. At first, he just wanted to get back as quickly as possible. Now that he had attachments in this time period, Leo thought if he could choose, he would want to stay with Prince Jing for a long time. At the end of the book, Prince Jing was still healthy at 40 years old. That was still a long way away from now. To Liu, who was only 18, it seemed like a lifetime. But he hadn't transmigrated of his own accord. Would it be up to him how long he stayed? He thought about it carefully for a while, then said honestly, "I'm not sure." He found he didn't want to lie to Prince Jing about this. When he heard his response, Prince Jing's expression turned furious, and he grabbed Leah's hand tightly in his, so tightly that it hurt a little. Oh no. Your Highness, what's wrong? Leah asked, surprised. He didn't know why Prince Jing was suddenly so emotional. Prince Jing pulled him roughly into his arms and repeated silently over and over, "Don't leave me." Your Highness? Leah didn't understand what was going on. He tried to wrap his arms around the other man's shoulders to calm him. The two of them fell into silence while in each other's arms. After a while, Wang Shi came to get Prince Jing, saying the assassins had confessed, so Prince Jing had to go deal with them. This wasn't something he could put off. Prince Jing let go of Li Ye, looking much calmer. He glanced at Wang Shi. "Take care of him." Wang Shi nodded enthusiastically. There was one good thing about the assassins. They made Li Gongzi and Prince Jing more affectionate with each other. Wang Shi is the #1 shipper, and I'm here for it. Soon after, Liu managed to get Wang Shi to leave and immediately headed into the mental world of the system. He recalled that the quest through thick and thin had been completed when the assassins showed up. Because his cover was blown, he hadn't been able to check until now, but he could claim his reward now, right? Leah entered the system immediately, checking the main quest line. As expected, Through Thick and Thin was now completed. The reward was another one of Prince Jing's secrets. Leah let his mind wander as he looked at the 4 options. Then suddenly asked, System, can I go back and look at the secrets I viewed before? That secret with the tiger doll, the one that had been done with one that had to do with Changchun Palace kept popping into his mind. He'd never worked it out, and so he couldn't let it go. The system was silent for a while, as though it was thinking it over. Just as Leah thought there was no hope, one of the 4 choices became a dark place. Changchun Pavilion, yes. The user is allowed to swap his reward, the system said. Please choose. Leah understood that the system meant he had to pick from the 3 secrets he didn't know yet, or Changchun Pavilion. There was no hurry, he decided. He could check out Prince Jing's other secrets as he completed future quests. He wanted to figure this one out first. Leah chose Changchun Pavilion and immediately arrived at the location of the secret room in Changchun Palace. Oh, I keep saying pavilion, sorry, I meant palace. This time he was ready, and he observed everything very carefully. The woman's appearance, as well as the melody she hummed quietly as she waited for the servants. He also noticed that there was a bundle of cloth on the bed behind the woman. Leah hadn't really noticed last time, but this time he took a closer look. It looked a bit like swaddling clothes. When the woman and the servant began to struggle, he noticed that the swaddling moved slightly, and a pair of dark, grape-like eyes peered out, observing everything curiously. But there was a baby in the room. At first the baby had been hidden behind the woman, and then the conflict started between the woman and the servant. So the first time Leah's focus had been on the fight, he hadn't noticed the baby, but the child had always been there. Wait, the child made Leah suddenly come to a realization. Why was this Prince Jing's secret? When he'd asked Prince Jing about it, he hadn't seemed to remember it at all. And since it was Prince Jing's secret, why was there no sign of Prince Jing himself? It's okay, we'll give our fish just a little bit of time to internalize that before we judge him. Actually, Prince Jing was here. He just hadn't noticed it before, because Prince Jing was this baby. No wonder he had no memory of this. But these memories existed. Leah had seen Prince Jing as a chubby little boy, faced with a baby version of the chubby boy. He was able to recognize him quickly. Now that he had confirmed his suspicions, he already had more questions. Since Prince Jing was a baby, and Leah hadn't spotted any cloth hangings used for mourning inside Changchun Palace, that meant that in the memory, Empress Xiaohui was still alive. Why would Empress Xiaohui allow a woman to be with the little prince alone? Judging by the woman's age, she wasn't a normal servant. Leah noticed that the woman was a bit on the plumper side and suddenly paused. Was this Prince Jing's wet nurse? Age, body type, and being alone with the little prince. It all added up. So was the secret that when Prince Jing was a baby, he had unknowingly witnessed his wet nurse being murdered by a servant? But there were plenty of people that Prince Jing had dealt with. Why was this a secret? He'd had a small breakthrough, but now was stuck in another bottleneck. When he emerged from the flashback, the system reminded him, User, the revitalizing quest line has been updated. Please confirm the information before proceeding with the next step. Leah made a noise in response. His thoughts were interrupted again. Might as well continue with his quests. A notification immediately popped up in the system. User, please confirm your relationship with the Tyrant. Okay. The fish scamming system was asking him to confirm but it was actually just another multiple choice. Pet fish or lover. He had leveled up from pet fish now. Leo naturally chose lover, unable to keep the smile off his face. The system said, "User, please complete the next quest according to what you have selected." As Prince Jing's lover. I'm scared. I'm scared he's gonna have to do a quest that would have been more ideal to do as a pet fish, and now he's stuck doing it as a human. I don't know. The system updated the next step of the revitalizing quiz. Burn with passion with the Tyrant. Never mind, I'm glad that he's not doing that as a fish. Oh my goodness. Oh no. Seriously? System, come out here. I promise to beat you to death. They had to be willing to give up their lives for each other to complete the Through Thick and Thin quest. What was required for Burn with Passion? It could be a problem if one's feelings develop too deeply too quickly. Leah gave a lurid smile. Didn't this mean the system wanted them to hook up too? Was Spring here? He'd eaten and drunk his fill, and now more and more he was craving the other man's body. I mean, hey. I honestly don't know what to say to that. My word. Okay. On to the next chapter we go. Guys, is it just me, or do bookmarks make you happy? I've had this one for a while now, and every single time I get to use it, it just makes me very happy. I don't know if you can actually see it properly. Anyway, sorry. Random. Chapter 80. Fishy Masterpiece. Do we have a painting fish? A Picasso fish? What's going on? This was the task Leo was most excited for. After everything had been taken care of, he secretly started to plan. The room had to be neat and clean. He even ceremoniously switched to a set of bright red bedding. You don't think she and Prince Jing are gonna notice that? He placed a pair of jade pillows on the bed and stuffed a few boxes of different kinds of ointment behind one of the pillows. A friendly suggestion from Wang Gong. Oh my goodness. Okay. Never mind. Leo didn't know what would be most useful, so he just made sure to have one of each. All that was left was to use his silver hourglass, time his transformation, and wrap himself in the blankets to wait excitedly. He figured he was being obvious enough. If his boyfriend still didn't get it, he was dumb as a block of wood. Okay. Leo asked Wang Xi to help pass along the word, requesting that Prince Jing come back early. Although they were now at the western border, it didn't feel any different from Prince Jing's manner. He always felt safe and secure wherever Prince Jing was. Leo waited and waited, until eventually he fell asleep. When he woke up again, the hourglass was almost halfway finished, but there was still no sign of Prince Jing. He rubbed his eyes and sat up. Why wasn't Prince Jing back yet? Had he gotten caught up in something? Oh great, of course this would potentially be the time where everything went wrong. Leo recalled that the prince was probably dealing with the assassins. Of course he couldn't take him along. Leo himself being very willing to avoid such situations. Prince Jing was, after all, a prince from ancient times. He had his own means of dealing with things. In the future, he would have to fight for the throne. Leo couldn't force him to see things from a modern perspective. As long as he didn't carelessly harm innocents, Leo could understand. Leo waited a little longer, his concern for the prince sweeping the filth out of his mind. He decided to go look for Prince Jing himself. He was just about to get dressed when he spotted the faint light coming from the window next door. A light bulb went off in his head. He knew where Prince Jing probably was. Wrapped in the blanket, Leah pushed open the door to the next room. Sitting at the table with a bunch of secret reports spread out in front of him, the tall youth had his brows furrowed, deep in thought. In that instant, Leah desperately wanted to chase away all his worries. Your Highness, you're still busy? Leah called out in a soft voice. Prince Jing looked up, spotting Leah standing in the doorway, wrapped in a red blanket. He looked very cute with the way he was shaking his head, and Prince Jing couldn't help the upward quirk of his lips. He waved Leah over. Eagerly, Leah approached and sat down next to him. There were many maps laid out on the table. Leah had accompanied Prince Jing to his job at the Ministry of Works, and he immediately recognized them as the typographic maps. Clearly, the prince was studying the terrain. As soon as he sat down, Prince Jing swept him into his arms, blanket and all. When he touched Leah's hand, which stuck out of the blanket, his palm was a little cold. Prince Jing gave him a slight accusatory side eye and warmed Leah's hand in his. Leah felt warm and comfortable. Your Highness, what are you looking at? He asked quietly, pointing at one of the maps. They had just arrived in Luofeng village. Was Prince Jing planning on building another house? Prince Jing grabbed a brush, circling an area on the map, and wrote, "One man can hold out against 10,000. You're preparing for battle, Your Highness? Leah asked curiously. Border lay just outside Luofeng village. The constant rise of battle left the area in chaos. Leah had known coming here that it was very possible that battle would break out, but wasn't it rash to start one as soon as they arrived? Why were they fighting? Prince Jing understood his worry. He handed a secret report to him. Leah asked hesitantly, "Can I?" Prince Jing nodded, and Leah opened the report. It turned out to be an assassin's confession. The assassins had admitted they were under the orders of a local gentleman by the name of Wu, who had paid a hefty sum for the assassination attempt. Quick note, Squire Wu is a country gentleman, a class of low rank, non-hereditary nobles who own land in rural areas. Okay. An ancient China sending me. Oh goodness. See, this is the one benefit to when you do the transmigrated novel thing, is it's like, oh, it's not this author's fault if things are inaccurate, it's the author within the story's fault if things are inaccurate. It was a little shocking to read. Leah had assumed the assassin had been sent by the Sixth Prince, but it was a random member of the gentry instead. Leah was confused. The Squire Wu had never met Prince Jing, and men like him might not have much influence outside their jurisdiction. But they were all rich. Why did he try to kill the prince? Seeing Leah's confusion, Prince Jing slowly handed Leah the other reports. Prince Jing found it just as suspicious as Leah did that such a minor noble would dare hire assassins, so he'd ordered the guards to investigate the man's background. In just one short day, the guards had already completed the background check. It was no secret in Luofeng village. The reason Squire Wu was able to wield such power and accumulate such a fortune in a remote, impoverished village was that he was secretly colluding with the bandits that the western border was overrun with. Ah. In which case it actually is very valid that he is after Prince Jing, because Prince Jing might take care of the bandit problem and then ruin all his things. Prince Jing had done his research before setting off. So far, two great threats existed on the western border. The bandits were one of them, and they had the emperor constantly on edge. The border was rife with war, and so the bandits often took the opportunity to harass people, going against the imperial government. The emperor had sent troops to deal with the issue before, but with little success. The bandits colluded with the enemy countries, and they had the terrain advantage, so the army had never been successful in wiping them out. As a result, the bandits' issue was a sore spot for the emperor. Amidst all this, Luofeng village was a choke point at the western border. The emperor had tried to appoint several officials there, but none lasted more than half a year before they inevitably either quit or died, and the village head had run out of candidates. Currently, an interim official was taking over temporarily. The emperor had sent Prince Jing for two reasons. First, to give the prince a chance to test his skills, and second, because he made up his mind to solve the situation at the western border. Before Prince Jing had left the palace, the emperor had given him a secret decree that he was to look at only when he arrived at the border. Now that he was here, he took it out to read it. The emperor had ordered him to strike when the opportunity was right and to bring the western border under control. With this decree, Prince Jing was free to do as he saw fit. He first ordered the guards to arrest Squire Wu. When he was brought before Prince Jing, he denied everything and refused to admit guilt. He behaved arrogantly, so Prince Jing skipped the pleasantries and had him beaten half to death. Hopefully, luckily not in front of Xiao Ye. When the guards searched and seized Squire Wu's property, aside from money and gold, they found countless rare treasures and plenty of weapons. It turned out he wasn't a gentleman at all. He was just a bandit playing pretend, lurking within Luofeng village. He had been planted there by the bandits to help them transport things in and out. And now that their supply is at least slightly injured, maybe they won't be so quick to retaliate. When Prince Jing arrived, the bandits didn't take the mute prince from the capital seriously. They saw him as just another official, no different from all the other ones they had bullied before. The bandit chief decided to prepare a special welcome for him and had Squire Wu send the assassins. Since Prince Jing had discovered Squire Wu's true identity, he wanted to bring him to justice and crack down on the bandits immediately. But that would anger the bandits who had already run rampant for such a long time. Prince Jing had considered dealing with them before, but the people had initially brought him. But the people. People. It sounds like a robot. The people. Let me try this again. He had initially brought with him were just a handful of elites. They were highly skilled, but there wasn't many of them. Now that the Imperial Guards had arrived, he had a greater chance at success, and he could finally attempt the fight. Although Prince Jing had read many military books, it was still his first time actually going to battle. After selecting the optimal position to face the bandits, he still had to think of comprehensive strategy. Unfortunately, the bandits had strong soldiers and horses. It was difficult to come up with a plan. All these secret reports was making Liu go cross-eyed. He felt renewed admiration for his boyfriend. The fish's brain was full to the brim with filth. His boyfriend was preoccupied with sticking to the bandits instead of sticking it to him. Way to look at it, I guess. This is what was called putting the interests of the whole before the individual. I mean, he's not wrong, but I don't think that's how it's supposed to be used. It seemed that if the bandits weren't dealt with, there'd be no action for the fish to look forward to. Is your highness worried about strategy? I have an idea. Leo stroked his chin, giving Prince Jing a very meaningful smile. He had seen the Emperor and Duke of Chang'an stroke their chins like this, and he wanted to try it too. But their chins had majestic-looking beards, while Leo was still the smooth, hairless chin of a young man. If he kept rubbing, it would look extremely out of place. Prince Jing held in his laugh. His gaze was expectant, as though asking, "What idea?" Prince Jing's dark, reflective eyes was undoubtedly his most beautiful feature. When he looked at others, they were as cold as frost, but when he looked at Leo, they were full of emotion. With this pair of shining, sparkly eyes on him, Leo could feel his heart beating hard in his chest. He felt like ever since he'd admitted to being the carp spirit, Prince Jing's trust in him had only grown. He snapped himself out of it, trying his best to keep his thoughts out of the gutter. "Look, your highness," he said, pointing at the map. "Many families in Lofeng village have cellars in their homes. These can be expanded. Once we really start fighting, we can prepare some food and water and have people stay in the cellars. They'll be safe, and it will prevent the bandits from attacking fleeing villages." Leo didn't want any harm to come to the villagers, so he thought of using the cellars as something like air raid shelters. You know, it's kind of funny because Leo has these moments where he is just like, there are no thoughts, there is no brain matter, it's just, emptiness. And then he has moments like this. And then you're like, wait, what? I don't know. The dichotomy of this man, this fish, I should say. Prince Jing nodded in agreement. Not bad. Once the villagers are all hidden, you won't have anything to worry about. You can lure the bandits into the village. Then they'll be out in the open, and we'll be hidden. If your highness can dig some underground tunnels as well, you'll be able to attack from those too. Leo battered his eyes mysteriously and drew a few traps on the map. The fish hadn't even read books on war before, but he knew about mine and tunnel warfare. Prince Jing gave careful consideration to Leo's words and gained quite a lot of inspiration. He was about to ask for some more when he realized Li Gongzi had turned back into a fish. He was currently waving his tail, flap, flap, flap. He scooped up the fish and the blanket with practiced ease, put the fish in the tank, and put the blankets back on the bed. After all this, Prince Jing suddenly noticed the pair of jade pillows on the bed. This must be Xiaoyu's masterpiece. Prince Jing chuckled, putting the bright red blanket away. A little box was peeking out from the jade pillow. Reaching out to grab it, he discovered a few more. Prince Jing opened one and found the milky smooth ointment inside. He finally realized exactly what he had just missed out on. It's okay, you'll have another day. After he was captured, Squire Wu remained calm at first, assuming Prince Jing would use him to negotiate with bandits. But once Prince Jing found out his true identity, he didn't bother keeping him alive. Instead, he had him hanged from the large tree at the entrance of the village and confiscated all his illegal wealth. Okay, part of me is thinking, did Prince Jing go that hard regarding Squire Wu because it's Squire Wu's fault that he missed out on something? Maybe that's just me. If the bandits were going to try and scare Prince Jing, then Prince Jing would slap them right back. The village head was very worried about this. Prince Jing was a prince from a faraway capital. The village head wasn't hoping for much, but a son of the emperor definitely couldn't be allowed to be hurt in any way while visiting his village. When he found out there had been an attempt on Prince Jing's life, the village head nearly fainted. But Prince Jing had ordered the bandits to be hanged in retaliation. The village head laughed helplessly. Never mind being hurt, now it would be a miracle if Prince Jing wasn't murdered. Killing Squire Wu was as good as declaring war on the bandits. The army had tried many times before and had never been successful. How many people did Prince Jing have? How did he think he was going to defeat the bandits so soon after arriving at Luofeng village? His Royal Highness Prince Jing would be fine after initiating the chaos. He would just leave and wash his hands of Luofeng village. But what about its people? Suddenly, everyone in the village was in a panic. The village had asked to see Prince Jing many times, but Prince Jing never agreed. Eventually, one night, the furious bandits launched their attack. But when they invaded the village, they discovered it was empty. The next thing they knew, their opponents seemed to appear out of nowhere and had them completely confounded. Realizing something was wrong, they tried to escape, but were brought up short by traps set at the village exits. This was the first time the bandits had been defeated so effectively. They had been caught by Prince Jing, who had been waiting patiently for his prey. Get you a man who wraps up a bandit problem that has been plaguing the nation for multiple years in the span of a page. Damn. Okay. I'm gonna just take a sip of tea. Chapter 81. Fishy, burning with passion. Let's see. Leah was walking along the small streets of Luofeng village, accompanied by Wang Xi and a couple of guards. After the battle with the bandits, the villagers should have been exhausted, but all the people he saw along the way were full of energy and excitedly discussing what had happened. Gongzi, this was the result of a victorious battle from His Highness. Wang Xi praised his master enthusiastically. He's given them so much confidence. This had been Prince Jing's first battle against bandits, and was also Luofeng village's first victory against them in all these years. The villagers had received a huge burst of encouragement. The bandits weren't as invincible as they had imagined, and they now knew the emperor, who might as well have been on the other side of the world, hadn't given up on them. Yeah, I can actually see why that would be very, inspiring is not the right word, but yeah. They were especially heartened by Prince Jing leading the battle against the bandits himself. Several villagers had witnessed Prince Jing's tactics in person and were vividly reenacting them for everyone else. When the bandits had been tricked into the village, the guards following the prince kept appearing silently where the bandits least expected it, striking them where it hurt. Prince Jing, though only a single person, seemed to be possessed by the god of war himself, slaying 3 bandits all on his own. As a result, Prince Jing had gained the reputation of a skilled warrior. Before Prince Jing had arrived at the border, the villagers had heard the prince was a mute with a brutal personality, so they didn't have a very good impression of him. Later, when Prince Jing hanged Squire Wu in front of an audience, the villagers were somewhat gratified, but not so gratified that they weren't terrified of the inevitable consequences. They all hoped that this prince would hurry up and leave, but it turned out the prince was hiding his true plans extremely well. He had managed to defeat the bandits that had been plaguing them for several years. All the villagers now saw Prince Jing in a new light. Right now, they saw Prince Jing as their guardian angel. As long as Prince Jing was there, Lofeng village was safe. The person whose opinion had changed the most was the village head. Before Prince Jing fought the bandits, he was filled with worry. Now that the battle was over, the village head wanted to spend all day gushing about Prince Jing. He thought Prince Jing was much better than the useless officials they'd been assigned in the past. Hearing the villagers' praise, Prince Jing made Li Ye happier than... Oh, damn, sorry. My bad. Let me try that again. Hearing the villagers praise Prince Jing made Li Ye happier than if they'd been praising him. Although he had given Prince Jing some ideas by mentioning the underground passageways and traps, he didn't understand war. He had only talked about those concepts briefly, and Prince Jing immediately understood what to do with them. Their luck was also pretty good. Lofeng Village just so happened to already have a few very short passageways in place, which the villagers had originally dug out because they were afraid of the bandits making their way into the village. Prince Jing took advantage of them and had ordered the guards to create more overnight. He had also planted many traps where the bandits were sure to pass by, leaving them to suffer miserably. Prince Jing had fought in the battle himself too, boosting the morale of the soldiers. With Prince Jing in the lead, they responded flexibly to the battle. Prince Jing's contribution to the victory was undeniable, and Li Ye felt very lucky to witness an ancient version of mine and tunnel warfare. Before he left for the battle, Prince Jing told Li Ye he had to hide with the villagers and that he would have someone stand guard over him, but Li Ye refused. He wanted to watch the battle from somewhere hidden. Prince Jing acquiesced. The entire time, Li Ye's eyes were locked onto the mute prince. He fought so bravely and seemed he was invincible. Li Ye was no longer afraid of such bloody scenes, at least not in the way that he had once been. Every moment he was gripped by fear of losing Prince Jing, but he knew Prince Jing had to participate in this battle in order to establish himself. This was his first official step on his journey to the throne. Although he didn't hold the same deep hatred in his heart that drove him in the original book, some people were just born with certain qualities, and Prince Jing possessed the invincibility of someone destined for the throne. Gongzi, please hold on a moment. An old woman holding a child called out to Li Ye. Are you with His Highness? Many bandits had been captured after the battle, and all the villagers had been checked by the village head. None of them were suspicious, and Li Ye had the guards and Wangxi with him. So he stopped without hesitation. I appreciate all the justification, because my suspicion immediately spiked, so I feel a little bit better now that the book has reassured me. Grandma, I'm Prince Jing's attendant. Is there something you need? Li Ye asked in a gentle voice. After confirming she'd found the right person, the old woman shakily pulled out a flower crown from her sleeve. She handed it to him and said, Please pass this on to Prince Jing for me. I made this flower crown myself. Please thank him for saving my grandson and me. Li Ye didn't know how to react. What? The old woman explained that most of the villagers had been moved to a safe place during the battle, but her grandson was mischievous and had disappeared somewhere. The old woman had missed her opportunity to be transferred to the safe area because she was trying to find him and hadn't known where to go. She was left sobbing on the side of the road, which was how Prince Jing had found her. He ordered the guards to help me find my grandson and took us somewhere safe. That's how we remained unharmed. She knew that if it had been anyone else, they might not have cared about an elderly person like her, especially one with a child. She was extremely grateful and wanted to thank Prince Jing. He really didn't know the Tyrant could do such good deeds as this. Was the Tyrant turning into a benevolent ruler due to the wing flaps of the little butterfly that was him? He smiled. Grandma, don't worry, I'll definitely pass it along. The old woman thanked him profusely, and Leah asked Wang Shi to hand a red envelope to her grandson. Leah puffed up his chest proudly. His heart felt sweeter than honey. After seeing all he wanted on his stroll, Leah returned to the residence with the old woman's flower crown. Prince Jing was in the middle of taking off his armor. Leah's eyes lit up as he rushed up to him. Your Highness, hold on. I want to touch it. It wasn't clear exactly what Prince Jing was thinking of because his face suddenly went slightly red, and he lowered his hands. Leah carefully smoothed a hand over his shining armor. He knew Prince Jing had already wiped it down to minimize the amount of blood Leah would have to see. Sometimes Leah thought he was being unreasonable. When you liked someone, shouldn't you accept every part of them? Like how Prince Jing couldn't speak, how Leah was able to transform into a fish, and the blood that once stained the armor. All of that was part of them. Not bringing up the topic was a way to show that he cared, but wasn't accepting also a way to show it? Your Highness, in the future I will do my best to get used to it. Leah said gently, helping him remove his armor. It will be okay. At first, Prince Jing didn't know what he was talking about. Halfway through taking off his armor, he suddenly understood and wrapped Leah in his arms, kissing him aggressively. The armor was too hard and it hurt Leah a little, but he still hugged the prince back tightly. After removing the armor, Leah wanted to help him change into a set of casual robes. Prince Jing often helped him change, so Leah didn't think it was a big deal to help the prince now and then. But as soon as he moved to do so, Prince Jing shook his head. Huh? I'm already helping you change. Is there something you're not happy with? That was a thought that wasn't actually said. Prince Jing wasn't unhappy. He pulled out a red robe edged with gold and handed it to Leah with a smile. It wasn't that Prince Jing didn't want Xiaoyu to help him. It was that the casual robes weren't quite suitable. Leah was bewildered, but he helped the prince change. This was probably Prince Jing's most eye-catching robe. It was red patterned with gold, and the jade belt was encrusted with pearls. If he tied a red ribbon in his hair, it looked like he was getting married. Guys, how long do you think it's gonna take for our fish's penny to drop? Sorry. Leah was just thinking it was an amusing coincidence when Prince Jing really did pull out a red ribbon and a jade comb, handing both to him. Leah kind of understood. I'm really bad at tying hair, he chuckled. Are you sure you don't mind? Prince Jing nodded again and again. Leah used all the skills he had and tied Prince Jing's hair up in a way that was almost competent. Having taken care of his boyfriend, Leah said excitedly, I want to change too. There was a new set of robes Prince Jing had made for him in his inventory. Prince Jing thought on principle, no matter where they were, his wife had to have enough clothes. Before leaving the capital, he had made a rush order for Leah. Added to the clothes Leah had from before, he could wear different sets each day and never have to repeat an outfit. Leah liked the one he pulled out now best. For once, Prince Jing hadn't had a lot of gems added to this one. Instead, it was made of heavy, bright red silk, embroidered with fish playing among peonies. Ooh, that sounds really beautiful. The peonies, woven with golden thread, were many-layered, blooming from the hem of the robe all the way to the waist. A lifelike carp wrapped around the waist, as if smelling the peonies. The embroidery on this robe was exceptional. Each flower petal seemed delicate and charming. The fish was silver with flecks of gold, and its scales shone. Leah already had a set of silver robes quite similar to the color of his fish form. This embroidery was even closer, as though it had perfectly captured him as a fish. Even the size was accurate. Leah fell in love immediately. Okay, no, I was wondering for a second if it was the outfits from the cover, but definitely not. Since Prince Jing was wearing red robes, Leah wanted to wear red too. They had worn matching outfits at Yeshiz's wedding as well. After he was finished changing, Prince Jing put his hair up for him too and tied a sash around his waist that was embroidered with a pair of fish. Now dressed, the two looked at one another, each stunned by the other's appearance. Now what? Leah couldn't help but stutter. Prince Jing smiled and reached into his sleeve. Leah was screaming in his heart, "Here it comes, here it comes! This man's about to do something again." What was it going to be this time? A nauseating love note or a little golden fish? It was neither. Prince Jing pulled out a rock and placed it on Leah's palm. Leah looked at it. The rock was shaped like a fish, and it was very familiar. It was the fish-shaped rock he'd put next to Prince Jing's jade figure in the huge fish pond. In Prince Jing's manner, but sometimes it's like you can pretend that you're not seeing the thing that might embarrass your fish boyfriend, you know? That's just me. He remembered that after the fit he'd thrown while he was sick, both the rock and the figure had gone missing. He assumed they'd been swept in some random corner in the pond and thought it was a shame. But after Leah got a boyfriend, he didn't pay it too much attention. Had it really been with Prince Jing all this time? Your Highness, how did you find it? Leah played with the rock, pleasantly surprised. He hadn't played with it in his human form before. But Prince Jing just wanted to give him this rock. He didn't want to explain how he found it. It'd take forever. Leah rubbed the carvings on the stone and then suddenly looked up at Prince Jing with bright eyes. Then, did your Highness have the jade figure as well? Jade figure? Very quickly, Prince Jing realized what he was talking about. He had wanted to keep it to himself originally, but since Leah wanted it, he took it out as well and placed it in Leah's hand. Leah held the jade figure in one hand, the fish-shaped rock in the other, and placed them both together. His eyes were curved from smiling. Prince Jing watched on silently as the fish played. After Leah put them away, Prince Jing pulled out a jar of wine from a sealed box. Through the lid, Leah could already smell the fragrance of green plum wine. He didn't know Prince Jing had brought such a thing from the capital, and he burst out laughing. Your Highness, did you bring the entire manor with you? Prince Jing shook his head and opened the jar with the silver blade. This was a previously unopened jar of wine. The moment it was open, a strong fragrance spread through the room, making Leah's mouth water. Prince Jing, who normally didn't like him touching alcohol, suddenly changed his ways and fetched 2 jade cups. Oh goodness. The cups were special too. there was a fish etched onto each one on the left, one on the right. When they were put together, they were a perfect pair. Prince Jing filled the 2 cups and handed one to Li. Li was just about to bring it to his lips when he snuck a glance at Prince Jing. Prince Jing was also holding the cup, but he wasn't moving. He just had his arm extended. Are they gonna do like the interlocking thing? Am I thinking too much? Leo immediately realized what he wanted. He reached his arm over as well. The two intertwined their arms and drank the wine together. Oh. Okay, wait, there is a note for that, though I guess we all know it, but Zhao Beijue is a part of traditional Chinese wedding where when the couple will drink their wine with their arms intertwined, just for those who are interested. So, I mean, yeah, they're kind of officially married in my eyes, but we'll wait. I guess they can technically marry, but they would need to get the emperor's approval first, which might be messy. So they've dressed in wedding robes, they've exchanged rings, and now they're drinking wine. #marriage. The ship is sailing. It is indeed. It's so funny though, because the more I read of Prince Jing, the more he is giving me like Wu Young Wu vibes with her whales. Like I could totally see Prince Jing being on the spectrum just a little bit. Maybe that's just me. Okay, so we are 1 minute past 11 and my throat is kind of killing me a little bit right now, so I think we're gonna take the 10-minute break. We'll be back at about 12 past, and then we are finishing up for the night with another 15 minutes. Sorry about that. Bye, Sarah Mori, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the stream. If you do, maybe watch the replay. Replay? I think that's what it's called, right? Okay, sorry. I don't know why I'm so tired tonight, and the voice is just not holding up. Maybe it's been a long week. But we are back. I had a horrible second where I thought I had once again found with sugar in my tea, but no, it's there. Thank goodness. Though it's not as like dire as it was during the Urha stream. Anyway. Okay. It has such a nice smell. Leah thought it tasted even better than the first time he tried it. Prince Ring smiled, deciding he would tell the fish later. He'd grabbed it from the old Duke of Chang'an before they left the capital. It was their wedding wine. Wait, as in Prince Ring stole Ye Qingyan's wedding wine, or it was Ye Qingyan's gift to them? I'm not sure. Now that they'd changed and drunk the wine, there was still... He'd almost forgotten the old lady's flower crown. Leah handed it to Prince Jing and gave a simple account of the old lady's story. Did your highness really do that? Although he was sure it was true, Leah was still shocked. After all, Prince Jing had ever done anything like that aside from saving the fish. Prince Jing nodded a little awkwardly. It was true, but there was a slight misunderstanding. Prince Jing didn't care how the people on the western border viewed him. He hadn't saved the old woman because he pitied her. He was used to being alone, ever since he was young, and rarely cared for others. His heart was still cold even now. But Shaiyu cared about the villagers and didn't want them to come to harm. He just wanted to grant Shaiyu's wish. I mean, it's not great, but it's a start. Prince Jing didn't want to explain. He smiled and placed the flower crown on Li Yu's head. Shaiyu should be the one receiving this reward. With the flower crown on his head, Liu suddenly felt playful. He smiled as he picked the red bloom from the flower crown and placed it against Prince Jing's chest. Wearing red, drinking wine, and wearing a flower, he was a real groom now. Liu couldn't help but think of the Burn with Passion quest, and his mouth suddenly went dry. Oh goodness. Your Highness, are you tired? He asked, face red. Prince Jing was afraid of missing this fish again. He had enough energy to fight the bandits 10 times over. He shook his head fiercely. Huh? You're not tired? Then let's talk some more. I don't think he wants to talk right now, I'll show you. Prince Jing thought they were getting further and further away from the main event. Opportunities were hard to come by. Prince Jing grabbed Leah's hand and pulled them in. When their lips approached, they were saturated with the wine's fragrance, gentle and romantic. Leah lost himself in the kiss, and Prince Jing scooped him up into his arms. Seeming to sense that something was coming, Leah couldn't help but fidget restlessly. Prince Jing brought him to the bed and was covered in red. The very bed Leah had prepared secretly before. His gaze swept across the bed, both shy and pleased. Prince Jing patiently unfastened the bun he himself had helped Leah put up. On this night, where he was destined to lose something, Leah thought he should say something sweet to initiate it. He'd thought about the scene thousands of times. It should be playful, yet lure Prince Jing so that he couldn't resist. Something Prince Jing would never be able to forget. I'm so scared to read whatever comes out of this fish's mouth right now. Remembering Prince Jing's whole deal with absorbing essence, Leah found his inspiration. Imitating the characters in the novel he teased, "Husband, we all need to absorb essence." Before he could finish speaking, something blocked his view, and he was pushed down. Oh goodness. Oh no, this title. Chapter 82. Fishy Aftermath. Also, can I just quickly give credit to this novel's back blurbs? Now, I don't read the back blurbs themselves because I'm always scared of spoilers, but the headers where they're like, it's a fishy situation, or a fine kettle of fish, or playing it coy, I think was Volume 2's catchphrase they have at the top. It's so great. I love the puns. Leah had been a fish for a long time. It was a terrible feeling to be away from water too long, but he enjoyed his current state of breathlessness. He cried and screamed, leaving mark after mark behind on the other man's shoulders. Prince Jing's overwhelming love shone through the pain of metamorphosis, and very quickly he was lost within it. The system notifications went off inside his head one after another, almost like explosions. Obviously, the Burn with Passion quest was complete, but Leah was practically an inferno by now, and had no attention to spare for the system. Not that he needed to pay attention. All he had to do was collect his reward and figure out the next step. He'd take care of that when he had the time. Leah screamed internally for the system to shut up and that he accepted everything, and the stupid thing finally quieted down. Now he could focus his attention on the sports of love. But the hourglass was almost up. Prince Jing stopped and kissed his bright red face, and though he looked at him with restraint in his eyes, his meaning was clear. Is it time to leave? Leah thought he was like Cinderella in the fairy tales, sitting in his pumpkin carriage. As soon as the clock struck 12, he would have to leave. But his Prince Jing, knew that he would turn into a fish, and even though he knew, he still loved him. Find you a man's. Your Highness, I don't want to leave. Leah loved this man before him more and more. He smiled while hugging him, and his voice was now hoarse from overuse. Because I know Your Highness would never judge me. Leah giggled as he hugged Prince Jing again. Prince Jing stalled for a moment before he figured out what Leah meant. He felt both emotional and exasperated. The fish had thrown all caution to the wind and began to act recklessly. He had to grit his teeth and bear with it. Prince Jing took a few deep breaths so he wouldn't be led astray by the fish. This truly was a huge test for him. As the final grains of the sand was falling in the hourglass, Prince Jing lay Leah down and ruffled his hair. His lover's soft, sparkling eyes peered up at him, tears of pleasure still glittering in his eyelashes. Your Highness, wait for me, Leah said quietly. His fingers touched Prince Jing's fingertips lovingly, like a small promise. Prince Jing held back all the passion he felt in his chest and waited quietly. In the next second, he watched as the youth turned back into a fish. Prince Jing had witnessed Leah transform many times by now, and he rushed to get the fish tank, but the fish stopped him. He jumped up to his shoulder, rubbing against his face affectionately, then used his hair as a slide. Leah slipped into his palm. This fish is way too chill without water, but it's fine. We left the logic behind at the start of Volume 1, so we're not thinking about it too hard. Prince Jing was confused at first. The fish was too big now to be held in just one hand, so he cupped both hands, holding the fish within them. All of a sudden, his palms felt cold, and out of nowhere they were filled with clear water. The fish was looking up at him from inside it. Prince Jing immediately understood that this was the carp spirit's magic. He'd conjured water. He waited, just like he'd been asked, until the sound of the dugong woodblock could be heard outside. When the hour was struck, it was as if the fish in his hands felt something, and he happily jumped out of Prince Jing's palms. Leah flipped over, making a beautiful arc in the air, and once again returned to human form, flying into his arms. Okay, quick note, dugong is a traditional method of time telling at night. A night watchman would walk around town with a gong or woodblock, striking 5 times throughout the night, roughly once every 24 hours. Oh, I almost skipped, sorry. Jing caught him with a smile. Leah pouted, panting slightly. Your Highness, when carps absorb essence, it happens in 2 acts. Now that the first act is over, the second act is about to start. His hoarse voice contained a sliver of sweet charm as he continued to stroke the passion in his heart. You'd better be careful, Your Highness, or I might drain you dry. He wanted to drain him dry in just one night. It wouldn't be that easy. Prince Jing smiled, no longer suppressing the desire within his eyes. They had had no choice but to extinguish the raging fire before, but now, without hesitation, they both added more and more kindling, letting the flames roar higher and higher. Leah slept late into the morning. When he woke, he realized he was lying on his silver rock bed with a leaf blanket wrapped around him. It was a shame he couldn't wake up pillowed on his boyfriend's chest, but with his fishy circumstances, being able to successfully absorb essence was already a great achievement. Leah was very satisfied with the whole process. He was just about to swim away from his bed when he realized his entire body felt heavy as lead, and his fins felt like they were rusted over. Meanwhile, his tail, it hurt whenever he tried to move. Okay? When he'd been secretly looking forward to it before, Leah had known there would be some discomfort afterwards. He was familiar with human discomforts, but how would that pain feel in fish form? He felt better as a fish when he was sick, but what about after doing the deed? Now he knew. It wasn't much better in his fish form. It felt like the spots beneath his tail fin had been punctured by hard, merciless steel forks. It burned. Great. Thanks for that detail. He understood now why fish mating was called intertwining tails. He might be the first fish to survive being skewered by a steel fork. Last time, when he'd asked Prince Jing how long he could last, Prince Jing held up one finger. Leah assumed he meant 10 minutes, or maybe even just 1 minute if he were unlucky. But now he realized he had probably meant an entire hour. Oh right, and last night he'd been skewered twice, the first half and the second half. He'd suffered through the fear, in brackets pleasure, of being skewered both times. It felt great when they were doing it, but he was suffering from the aftermath now. He couldn't just lay here not moving forever. Leah couldn't even flip over, and he was hungry. Fortunately, his boyfriend, Prince Jing, was not far. Leah hadn't been hungry for long before Prince Jing was already walking over. Noticing that the fish was awake, Prince Jing felt boundless gentleness well up within his heart. He took out a piece of fish food to play with him. In the past, the fish would happily swim over and play around with him. Prince Jing liked to pet the fish, but now, despite his attempts, the fish just stared at him pitifully. After a while, he lifted his fish head, struggled for a bit, then rolled off the silver rock bed. He continued to stare passively at him from the bottom of the tank. Prince Jing was shocked and rushed to pick him up. The fish was entirely limp in his hands. Last night, Prince Jing had tossed around the human Shire, but now he didn't know what to do when it came to the seemingly boneless fish. He brought the food to the fish's mouth, and the poor fish moved his mouth as quick as lightning and took it. He could still eat, so it probably wasn't a serious issue. Prince Jing felt somewhat relieved. Before Li Ye had turned back into a fish, he had carefully examined him and made sure he was uninjured. As for his fish form, the physicians and the servants who had experience with the fish had all come to take a look before the fish had woken up. The physician couldn't check the fish's pulse, while the servants' faces turned worried and ashen, hemming and hawing, without being able to give a definitive answer. Prince Jing had just figured it out for himself. He knew at least a little. If he was uncomfortable, then they needed to apply medicine. But he couldn't apply it while Shai was still a fish. If he left it until the fish turned back into a human, they'd have to wait until the next day. Prince Jing was conflicted on how to take care of an injured fish for this period of time. Leo rubbed against his finger, wanting him to relax. His recovery speed had been buffed by the system, so perhaps he'd be fine soon. It was just a mezzo fork. He was a strong fish. Besides, he wanted more in the future. Oh my goodness, the whole process. Shai is quite a character. With the help of Prince Jing, Leah ate plenty of fish food and felt a lot more comfortable. He rewarded Prince Jing with a fishy kiss, then remembered he had to go claim his reward and entered the system. The system's notifications had come one after another last night, like fierce waves, but at the time he was so thoroughly preoccupied by the waves of passion he had no time to worry about it. Now he could look at his reward. He could receive another one of Prince Jing's secrets. Hee hee. Leah entered the system and was immediately greeted with an influx of notification windows. They nearly smothered him to death. What was going on? Didn't he just complete a quest? Shouldn't he be ready for the next? Why were there so many notifications? Leah wasn't in the mood to check them all. He checked the main quest progress first. Why do I feel like that's going to come back to bite him? Last night's raging fire had completed the burn with passion quest. The next step, spread your seeds with the Tyrant, was in progress. Spread your seeds? The same dude, what? Surely that wasn't quite right. Spreading seeds meant continuing the family line, which meant having children, right? Leo was shocked and a little put off, and he hurried to read the description. Perhaps he misunderstood. Perhaps he and Prince Jing simply had to plant crops. Sure, yeah. Fortunately, the quest had a description this time, though it was only one line. Give birth to the child. Huh? Give birth to the tyrant's children. pregnancy thing was supposed to be a joke. The pregnancy thing was supposed to be a joke. Okay, okay. It's too late for this. Like, I don't. My brain is not computing. Leah was freaking out. Holy hell. This description might as well not exist. What did it mean? Give birth to the tyrant's children? Is there a different way for that sentence to be interpreted than the way I'm interpreting it? I cannot think of any. Oh, I can't think of any. He was a man. Even if he was a fish, he was a male fish. I mean, clownfish exist, though. I don't think carp count in that way, but clownfish exist. What was he supposed to give birth with? The system was asking him to go against the laws of nature. Fair question, yes. No. Why did the system even have such outrageous quests? Leo was so shocked his voice shook. System, what's going on? Why do I need to have children? The system responded in a low voice. User, please check last night's notifications. Leo no longer dared to ignore them. He hurriedly opened them all up. The notifications were actually all warnings. The one on the very bottom, which meant the one that came up first, was the Burn with Passion quest is now complete. Warning, the user is about to enter the highest level of intimacy with the Tyrant. This will affect the subsequent missions. Please consider carefully. No careful consideration was to be had that night. Leah thought back to when the first notification had popped up. It was when Prince had pressed him into the red bedding and kissed him with mouthfuls of green plum wine. Wait, so that also counted? He didn't have to actually do it, but he wanted to. Who would stop at a time like that? Who could stop at a time like that? The second from the bottom, the next step. Spread your seed with the Tyrant has begun. User, please confirm whether or not you consent to having children. And I think he literally just went, yes, shh. And that's how that happened. From the bottom, user, please confirm whether or not you consent to having children. The fourth from the bottom, user, please confirm whether or not you consent to having children. The fifth from the bottom, user, please confirm. The long string of notifications all contained the same line. It was clear how persistent the system was, but that wasn't right. If he had to consent, it wouldn't just make him give birth casually, right? So how did that want to the next step? Did you forget that you were like, just pressed OK without reading the fine print? Clearly. Yeah, I'm missing a lot of the comments here. Let me just check. Pretty sure is Halloween? Not sure. Weighing. Oh, how weighing feels after everyday meet. Okay. Sorry. Now I understand. Janae EXE has stopped responding. Yeah. This is the furthest cry from era. I don't think we could find two more opposite books if we tried, and I'm very grateful for it. What had he done? He suddenly recalled that last night he was frustrated by the system's constant notifications, so he had accepted everything blindly. That seemed to be when the system had quieted down too. So he'd done this to himself? Holy hell. This was way too much information at once. He was the one who had done this to himself. Realizing this, Leah went to look at the second most recent notification. It now read, "Next step, spreading your seed with the Tyrant has now been started. Please select the form you would like to complete this mission in. Fish or human?" Crap. So shocked he went Japanese. Nani? The Burn with Passion quest had asked him to select Form 2. What did this mean? Leah had a bad feeling. He immediately opened the most recent notification. The user has accepted the quest without making a selection. The default choice has been selected. Fish! No! Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Why his body hurt so much, and not just because of what we thought. User, please complete this quest in fish form. So is he not going to be able to transform into a human until he... And I have too many questions, my word, let's not go there. Leah finished reading the whole message, shaking. Complete the quest in fish form, which meant giving birth as a fish. Okay, at least he didn't have to have a swollen belly as a human. No, he couldn't have a swollen belly as a fish either. Leah was vexed, feeling like he'd gone in circles. System, how am I supposed to give birth as a male fish? User, don't worry. The More Pet system can change the genes of the fish. Some male fish can get pregnant. I mean, we knew this, so I should not be surprised, but I am. Certainly had no problem defying nature. It could give him secret special genes that would make a male fish pregnant. All of this was making him dizzy. In this world, the system was God, the golden finger. He couldn't go against it. Leah made a last attempt. Even if some male fish can give birth, can humans and fish breed across species? Even if a fish can give birth, will it give birth to a fish or a human? That is my fear, like my concern. I can't even words right now. Don't worry, user. Just complete your mission. As your reward, this time, transformation time will be doubled, and you will gain the ability to cancel your transformation. Okay, so he can choose when to stop being human if the situation calls for it. That's good. And obviously the time doubling. Sob, it was so over. Every time the system told him not to worry, it was definitely scamming him. What kind of nonsense quest was this? And the reward was exactly what he wanted? Couldn't he just get the reward without doing the quest? The reward can only be claimed after finishing the quest. Leo kept trying to comfort himself. The quest was already in progress, sure, but how could he get pregnant off it just one time? Technically it was two, you said so yourself. Once is enough. The system seemed determined not to let him live and announced loudly, "User, don't worry. You have one shot and done You have the one shot and done skill." Does he have it? Or does Prince Jing have it? And what does this mean for any future bedroom activities? Will they have to worry about him getting pregnant every single time they get busy? Oh goodness, let's not think about it. This time will definitely be enough. What? He always wondered what the one shot and done skill was. So this was what it meant? The world spun before Leo's eyes. "System, come out here," he yelled. "I promise to beat you up until you give birth." He was ejected by the system before he could even claim his rewards from the last quest. Leo had experience now, and he knew protesting was useless. Nothing could stop the fish scamming system's quests. Wait, did this mean he was already pregnant? Leo couldn't hold back his gasp. He looked down fearfully at his slightly distended stomach. Was it fish food in there or fish raw? Ooh, I don't like the way he said that. Jing had been watching over the fish the whole time and noticed that after the fish came out of meditation, it had become a little agitated. He touched the fish's back. "What's wrong?" Leo stared up at his handsome face. Before, he thought Prince Jing was handsome no matter how he looked at him, but now all he could think about was the pregnancy. Sob. "Help. I just want to do it. I don't want to give birth." I mean, fair, dude, fair. But, like, it turns out not even guys are safe. Okay. We're gonna see how far we get in this chapter before the end of the hour. Chapter 83. The Fate of the Fish. Leo was unhappy and didn't want to move, but it wasn't because of his skewering anymore. His fish form really was fast at recovering. Before very long, the dull pain he had felt had abated quite a lot, and he could now swim around freely. His true reason for languishing was because he couldn't accept his fate of giving birth, and he had to do it as a fish. He'd seen fish give birth before transmigrating. Was he going to lay a bunch of eggs? It was a little too scary. He was a boy who had just lost his virginity. He hadn't even lost it many times yet, and he already had to give birth. No, the system had scammed him way too hard. The fish was down in the dumps, his spirits low. He was so put off by the spectre of the pregnancy that he didn't seem at all like a coy little fish who had just had its first time. Prince Jing could sense the fish's dejection and put aside his work to spend time with him. As soon as the fish made any sort of movement, Prince Jing was at his beck and call. Eating the red fish food Prince Jing gave him, the tiny bit of resentment Leo felt towards him disappeared. Never mind, it's not like Prince Jing knew he would get pregnant. He couldn't have possibly predicted that himself, so how could he blame the prince? I'm stuck on like how the pregnancy is gonna work, and I wish I could stop thinking about it because like it's breaking my brain. Jing had always respected him and kept himself in check. Between the two of them, Liu had been the one who desperately wanted to do it. Prince Jing was just giving him what he wanted. If it wasn't for the sudden pregnancy, they'd both be doing great. He was avoiding Prince Jing, but the prince still took such good care of him. Liu felt a little guilty. The system was so cold. Only his boyfriend's embrace was warm. The fish, who had been avoiding Prince Jing for less than a second, started warming up to him again. Prince Jing didn't know what the fish was thinking. He tried to rub him a bit. While Li enjoyed the attention, he was also unconsciously protective of his belly. Sob, it was just because he was afraid his boyfriend would notice what had happened. I don't want to ask this question, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder, what is a fish's gestation period? Like, how long of a timeline does this man have to come to terms with everything? In order to please the fish, as well as to show his happiness, Prince Jing had ordered a new stone rocking chair and placed it in the tank. As soon as Leo saw there was a new toy, he couldn't contain his fishy instincts, and he immediately went to rock on it for a while. Soon, though, he realized something wasn't right. Oh no, he shouldn't be playing. Leo hurriedly swam away from the rocking chair. A pregnant fish couldn't do such vigorous activities, right? Sir, it's day 1. Calm down. He knew almost nothing about human pregnancies. He knew even less when it came to fish. What was he going to do? He wanted to rub his tummy, but his fins weren't long enough. It wasn't fair. Should he tell Prince Jing? But being a corpse bird was already absurd on its own. Would Prince Jing accept his sudden pregnancy? He was kind of the one who suggests. No, wait, no, that was Leah who was joking with it, but Prince Jing seemed pretty keen on the idea. So he might not be as averse as Leah thinks. What was he pregnant with? He didn't know. How long would he be pregnant? He also didn't know. He couldn't even produce any evidence. He's asking all the questions I want the answers to as well. Would Prince Jing believe him? Would he think he was joking again? Why had he said he was pregnant before? Did he have nothing better to do? It seemed that when the boy cried wolf too much, he really would suffer the consequences. Perhaps he should wait until his tummy grew larger. Leo rolled around, frustrated. He couldn't make a decision. He considered many options, but not once did he consider getting rid of the life inside of him. He knew almost nothing about pregnancies, but he knew at least one thing. This was a little life that he and his beloved created together. Although he hated that the system had scammed him, he just couldn't muster any hate towards this little life. Okay. This feels awkward to bring into a very unserious book series, but I personally do believe that people should have a right to decide what happens to their bodies, and that's all I'll say on that. If they were blameless, then what about this life? Yeah, okay, no, I didn't miss anything. Leo sighed. His heart softened so much whenever he thought about this future child. He was probably going to have to keep it. When he was able to transform again, Leo didn't rush to turn into a human to get intimate with his boyfriend. His fish belly was a little bloated. He didn't know if it was just because he'd eaten too much or because he was pregnant. He was worried that if he turned into a human, his belly would be huge. But if he didn't transform, Prince Jing would be confused. They had just gone through a momentous once-in-a-lifetime occasion. Once in a lifetime? Does Prince Jing know that? and Prince Jing was expecting kissing, cuddling, and hugs, but he received nothing. The carved spirit who had sworn an oath with him didn't even speak to him. Prince Jing didn't want to accept that he was being rejected after having his essence absorbed for the first time. Was it a skill issue? Bad for him, but at the same time, like, I kind of love that response that he's like, wait, maybe, maybe it wasn't done right, you know? Not like, oh, she's rejecting me and how, that kind of an attitude. More just like, okay, what do I need to fix? What was the approach that needs changing? But apart from not transforming, the fish seemed fine. He still ate and slept, and Prince Jing couldn't see anything wrong. If his fish refused to transform, there was nothing he could do about it. He could only stay silent by the fish's side until he changed his mind. I do feel like Leah has some responsibility to talk to Prince Jing about this, because he does, as much as Prince Jing is taking this situation well, it's not good to leave things unclear, at least to the extent of don't make Prince Jing think that you're rejecting him if you can help it. Again and again, Leah felt like Prince Jing was trying to suck his soul out with his eyes. Oh, he missed his deeply affectionate boyfriend. Sob, sob, sob. He had a baby in his belly now, so he didn't dare. Leah pretended not to notice for a few days, but at last it was too much. He couldn't do it anymore. When he found the right time, he transformed. Once he transformed, he didn't rush to get dressed. First, he looked down at his stomach. Still flat. He patted it, unconvinced, but it continued to be flat. Thank goodness. He really had been worried that after he transformed into a human, he'd have a huge pregnant stomach. Prince Jing had been keeping watch over him the entire time, but he had left for a little while just now. When he came back, he suddenly ran into Xiaoyu in his human form, staring at his belly. Why wouldn't he see him? Why had he been hiding? Yes, literally the last 6 minutes, but hi! Prince Jing walked over to Leah quietly, with infinite questions in his heart. But he was also afraid of scaring Xiaoyu. As he hesitated, Leah finished examining his stomach and suddenly spotted the person behind him. Leah was easily caught and found himself pushed up against a folding screen, his lips trapped against Prince Jing's. Prince Jing wasn't mad at him, but he felt he needed to assert his dominance. Okay. Leah had missed him deeply. Although they were together every day, it was different when he was a fish. Now that he had tasted ultimate joy, peaceful coexistence seemed to be missing a little something. Surrounded by warmth, Leah immediately let down his guard. As Prince Jing lavished him with affection, Leah thought vaguely, it's fine if it's just a few kisses, right? He knew how Prince Jing had been these last few days. He'd been able to feel his unease. He wanted to respond just as enthusiastically. He didn't want the prince to think there was any chance he disliked any of it. In the afterglow, Leah, whose brain was finally returning to him, felt a wash of belated regret. Another one and done. It was so over. He could control his human transformation, but he couldn't control the passion he felt towards Prince Jing. If this kind of thing happened once, then it would happen again and again and again. Besides, his boyfriend had just fallen in love. He was full of energy and drive. It was completely normal for him to want to absorb essence at the drop of a hat. If Leah was pregnant after this, he'd just have to accept it. He couldn't get pregnant every time, right? No, I don't think that's how that works, even in Fantasyland. Since this had to do with his future happiness and possibly children, Leah felt obligated to go talk to the system. The system said after one and done is activated, it will disappear. The user's fertility rate will return to normal. That was better. He had just gotten unlucky the first time and had to get pregnant. Actually, it wasn't better. He didn't even want children. Why was the system so persistent about this? In response, the system showed Leah a vision. In the vision, Prince Jing was a little older. He was wearing the emperor's robes, sitting all alone on the throne. What was this? His heart jumped inside his chest. He didn't like this feeling. The system didn't explain anything. Continuing to watch, Leah saw Chu Yanye walk out wearing a set of imperial robes. Huh? Prince Jing had stopped paying Chu Yanye any attention a long time ago. Why would he? Wait. A thought flashed in Leah's mind. Why did it seem like Prince Jing and Chu Yanye had aged several years? This was a middle-aged Prince Jing and Chu Yanye. Leah immediately realized it must be the end of the original book, when Prince Jing was around 40 years old. Chu Yanye, whose life was nearly half over, had finally started falling for Prince Jing. Leah watched as Imperial Noble Consort Chu walked. I feel scarred by the words Consort Chu, but anyway. Walked cheerfully by himself, but Prince Jing remained expressionless on the throne. The original book hadn't gone into detail about the end of their relationship, but the system had shown him. In the end, Prince Jing no longer cared for Chu Yanye and had become a complete, cold-hearted tyrant. Although he knew his boyfriend wouldn't meet the same end, Leah couldn't help the pang in his heart. But why had the system shown him this? The scene changed. Leah saw a few younger princes bowing and greeting to the Prince Jing wearing emperor robes. Leah was shocked. So Prince Jing had children in the original book? After all, the person Prince Jing was willing to give up having children for had no qualms with acquiring concubines for him to solve the issue. Realizing that Chu Yanye wasn't worth his affection, Prince Jing had grown to no longer love him. He was just completing his duty as the emperor. The tyrant possesses the protagonist's halo, which means he must have children, the system said, but because of the user, he will be prevented from having them unless the user is the one to provide them. Okay. This was even more shocking than when he found out he was pregnant. It was all because of him. The system spoke vaguely, so it took Leah a moment to understand. Was the system saying Prince Jing was ready to give up on children because of him? Honestly, he had known the answer to this question for a while. When he had pretended to be pregnant, Prince Jing was delighted. But after he found out Leah was just pretending, while Prince Jing was disappointed, he had never blamed him. Children and heirs were very important in ancient times. It wasn't something to joke about. But Prince Jing held him in higher regard than the promise of heirs and had agreed to never take on any concubines. Then what about Leah? He admitted that he was moved by Prince Jing's actions, but regardless he was still afraid of giving birth. He lowered his head. Let me think about it. That was said in his head. He almost exited out of the system, but that vision from the original story reminded him that he hadn't claimed the reward for the last quest. It was, as usual, another one of Prince Jing's secrets. He might as well claim it. Looking at the 4 options, he wanted to know exactly how important he was to Prince Jing, so for the first time, he chose the option that involved himself. He saw the scene where he'd helped Prince Jing clean his eyes at Din Tai Hall. Huh? Leah couldn't figure out why he was being shown this until he saw Prince Jing notice a fish scale on the fabric he had dropped. Prince Jing asked Ye Qingyan if he had taken care of a Yao before. Holy hell, how did I miss something so important? Prince Jing had known since then? Understanding dawned on him. Details that he thought were odd before suddenly made sense. Prince Jing always gave him gifts that involved fish. We had assumed it was just because he had fish in his name, but it was actually because Prince Jing had known the entire time that he was his pet fish. He had done so much for Liu without his knowledge, helping him take care of the situation when he had broken the crystal bottle for a moment of satisfaction, covering for him in front of everyone so his identity would remain hidden, turning the entire manor into a fish tank. Even Liu had been jealous of Prince Jing's fish before, but it had all been for him all along. Liu's heart felt heavy. He didn't know if he wanted to laugh or cry. He thought he had done a lot, but in the end he was the one who was being taken care of, the one being loved. He was moved by this love, and he already felt soft and fuzzy on the inside. But so what? System? Liu asked, sniffling. Does it hurt to give birth as a fish? Question? What a question. I can't believe we're here. I can't. Liu exited from the system feeling refreshed. It should be in him already. Since the system had said it wouldn't hurt, he'd go through with it. When he'd had no idea what was going to happen, everything felt wrong. But now that he'd thought it through and calmed down, he wanted to know what kind of children he would have. The system said that this was the beginning of these small new lives and of the fate between him and the Tyrant. Weeks 1 and 2, his human stomach remained flat, and as a fish, there wasn't much of a change either. One day, during the 3rd week, Liu suddenly noticed that he no longer fit in the ornamental mountain. Every day, when he thought there was nothing left to look at, his stomach would visibly grow a little bit more. Prince Jing felt the fish had gotten somewhat fatter. Had he been eating too much every day? I'm not. I haven't, Liu complained. Stop randomly touching my stomach. I can't believe we ended up here. And the next chapter title is Fishy Pregnancy, so I just... Anyway. That was so much fun. It's so nice to not have cried while reading. Maybe cried from laughter, almost. But yeah. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you guys also enjoyed it. And oh, quick note. So I'm hoping that after Justice in the Dark is finished, I'll be able to move the read-alongs to Monday nights, same time, on a more permanent basis. Obviously it might change, but I do want to kind of like just find a day that is more or less consistent, and I'm hoping Mondays will be that day. But next week, because Justice in the Dark will still not be finished, I'm still going to be doing Friday. So I'll see you guys again on Friday, and otherwise the week after that will be from Monday. So yeah, thanks again, and 再见!